Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So in the studio, I see a lot of lower back pain and I happen to wake up today and have some stiffness and tightness there myself. So I thought I'd take this time to just kind of show you what I do to get rid of that. It's just a quick run through, but we're gonna start with some self-manual therapy and get some self-release going on. And then once we get the whole complex loosened up, we'll move on down to the floor and do a couple simple stretches that should start to work out some of that stiffness and tightness that we feel on that day-to-day basis. So all you need for the video or to follow along is a tennis ball, or I will also demonstrate using a medium-sized medicine ball, and then I can show you too on this big one. It's a little bit more difficult down on the floor, but I'll still show it to you so you can kind of get a feel. You can kind of pick your poison on how much you want to invest into this. This is a really easy way to use the wall because it doesn't take a lot of time. You can do it really quickly. You don't have to spend a lot of time on each thing. You can control it a lot easier, and when you're already tired, when you're already stiff and you're aching and you're kind of sore, it's hard to kind of think about fitting in that one more thing. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through just how quick and simple it is to just grab a ball, find some wall space, and get some things worked out. All right, here we go. So we're gonna find the top of our pelvis here. You can take your fingers in the front and your thumbs in the back. You find those hip bones right there. And then what you're gonna do is we're gonna be working in this space from our front fingers down to our femur here, and then back up across this hip bone line. So we're gonna stay away from all this soft area up here with the tennis ball. There are some ways we can work that, and we might go over that in a different video, but you really wanna be pretty gentle up through here and know what you're doing. So for this video, we're gonna stay across the top of this hip line and just a little bit lower, and we'll roll through there. So you just need to find this spot on a wall, and you can control how much pressure you're putting on by how close your feet are to the wall. You can start by placing that ball in one spot and then just roll through it. I like this a lot easier, a lot better than the foam roller because it's more pinpointed. And again, you're not down on the floor rolling around having to do a plank and all of that jazz just to find these trigger points. When you do find a spot, you can just kind of stay right on it. And yes, I know this is for your low back pain, but by working and releasing the muscles that control your pelvis and how they tip and how it rotates back and forth, then we can loosen up the muscle in the low back, which we will be stretching later, but we're going to loosen all these muscles up first. So after you've kind of gone side to side, you can kind of roll up and down here too. Spend as much time or as little time as you want. I do this in between clients a lot. So sometimes 30 seconds at a shot, sometimes 10. Just really, as long as you do something, it's going to be beneficial. Once you've gotten that spot kind of how you like it, then just keep rolling around. Take the pressure off of this inside foot and just roll through sideways. So we're kind of wrapping around. I know it's hard to see where the camera is set up. We're kind of wrapping now into this area. My hip bone is still up here, so I'm still right underneath of it, but we're gonna be wrapping that around. Again, control the pressure, and you're gonna keep all your weight on that front foot. Drop the pressure off that back foot, and just roll the hip through. Again, you can kind of do that up and down, whatever feels good here. And this is where I can show you too with a little bit bigger ball. If you want a little bit broader application, just grab a bigger medicine ball, put it in that same area. Same thing, find your adjustment, and then roll through. So I like to give that ball a little more support if it's a little bit bigger. But you will find, I do encourage you to try different size balls because you do feel it in much different ways. Okay, and you can even finish that out by rolling all the way back through it. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to continue that down onto the big one, what we'll be doing is continuing around to this front space right in here. We're not coming way over into the adductors here, but we want to stay from our hip bone out just a little bit farther. We're going to kind of wrap right into this area here. Start by placing that ball right where you want it, then lift up the back knee and just roll through. And again, you can kind of circle this out a little bit better than you can with a foam roller. I don't usually spend a lot of time on this one just because I like the wall better. It's more accessible, but you can definitely get right in behind this femur, so right in front of it and coming right around and behind it. All right, so what I would do is pause, go back, do that on the other side. For the sake of the video, we'll just keep moving forward. We'll come on back up to a standing position, and again, we're gonna find our hip bones. Fingers in the front, and just let those thumbs wrap around to the back. So from here, we're gonna work on a motion that looks a little silly, but is super important, especially if you are a straight-lined athlete and you're doing a lot of things in straight lines, lifting. We really need to work on the side to side. So you can bend your knee here, but the goal is that your sacrum, where it meets your pelvis, is able to tip back and forth. Okay, that's the goal that we're going for, right in the back. Work on tipping and tilting. Try not to lean. Leaning is a super good stretch and we'll get there, but for right now, we really want to work on this tipping and tilting. Like a pelvic tilt, but you're going side to side. Then we are going to go into pelvic tilts, front to back. And you should be able to tilt into a pelvic, neutral, or forward tilt here without moving your shoulders. So make sure that you work through those motions. And don't worry if you don't get these right away. They take practice in order to be loose enough to be able to do these. Okay guys, next stretch. Go ahead and just support on the wall if you don't have great balance. Cross this knee over and sit back into that hip. This is just a deeper glute stretch. You can do this seated, you can do it on the floor, you know this version. I just like to add it in while you're standing here, especially after we just did all of those manual releases. And then one more standing is you're gonna step forward, not as deep as a runner's lunge, but we're gonna kind of get there. But what we wanna do is make sure that we tilt into that neutral pelvic tilt, so that we wanna make sure that we're taking this extra curve out of the lower back by bringing this back into a pelvic tilt, finding neutral, which if your hips are stuck in a forward tilt, this is really hard and you'll feel that stretch right away, which mine is definitely tight. So it almost, when you bring this pelvis underneath, point the tailbone to the floor, your knee's gonna drop straight down, and then you just have to sink into that a little bit. So where you're gonna feel this stretch, you could feel this in adductors, you could feel this hip flexors, TFL, all the way around this front complex here. Really make sure that you're working hard to hold that pelvic tilt. Use all those lower abdominal muscles, pull the belly button back towards the spine, and really focus on tilting this pelvis backwards. And then we'll release that, do the other side quick. Same thing, step forward, push that back leg straight, then tilt the pelvis, finding neutral, and then just drop down straight. So I forgot to add on the other side. You can definitely add a lean to this. I love the lean. I can't believe I forgot it on the other side. So you want to lean and then open. Now you're really starting to feel that muscle we just isolated here. Most likely the muscle that's bothering you if you have that low back stiffness. And go ahead and step back together. Okay, so already you should be feeling this whole area loosened up. You feel that blood flow start to flow through there. Things feeling pretty good. And again, remember, you don't have to take the time to do this whole series, but as you learn these motions and get better at them, they don't take very long, and you just add in the ones that really work well for you. Okay, so now we're gonna continue though down on the floor. So come on down to a seated position. So I know for a lot of you, even sitting in this cross-legged position is not very comfortable. So you want to ease into this as well. You could do this on the edge of the table with your legs hanging off. You could do this with one leg straight, or you could do this with both legs straight, and even a pillow up underneath of your hips here. Just raise up your center just a little bit so that you can kind of ease into these. Okay, one of the things we did standing was those hip walks or the The tilting, you can again do those seated or in a chair. Just to quick demonstrate what that is. I like them best standing. I don't love them on the floor, but that's just another option that I wanted to show you before we go into these stretches. So the first one that you're gonna do is just reach your right hand out to the floor. Both hip bones wanna stay on the floor the whole time. So as you're reaching this way with your top shoulder, you wanna be pushing down into the floor with this left hip. So make sure that you're releasing and relaxing the front of these hips. We don't want them to do the work here. In fact, if you need to just hold on to this knee for a little bit of leverage here, that works perfectly as well. So the action is to lean to the hand, but you're really pushing back down with the hips. Leaning here, open the shoulder. You can look up to the ceiling. And then if this is not far enough, go ahead and drop that elbow all the way down. Again, you can use the knee to press against. You can add it for a little leverage to hold against so you don't tip over. Wherever you are in your flexibility journey, just use it to your advantage so that you can relax the middle part and get into the stretch. If you're forward here, just work on pulling that shoulder back a little bit, even if you only move at millimeters at a time. And the goal is to get here in this position with every other muscle relaxed, your hip flexors, your ankles, and your feet, and your knees, and your shoulders. Everything should be relaxed so that what you're feeling stretch is this muscle that goes from your pelvis back to your spine, right through here. And thanks to that self-manual therapy that you already did, this is a lot easier to get into. And come back up center, and I'll show one more variation of that again. If we come all the way over, we can also add this hand back to the ceiling. Again, use this hand to your advantage. You can hold down on this knee so that your legs can relax. And you can even wrap, oh, I haven't done this one in a while, hand behind your head, elbow to ceiling, and get those lats involved here too. Okay, let's do that on the other side. We'll start with just hand reached out. Relax the hips, relax the knees. Pull that shoulder back. Go down to your elbow if it's available to you. Again, keeping everything else relaxed, pushing that right hip back down towards the floor. And that's a good key to just let this left knee relax. If you're pushing the hip backward this way, you can kind of let this one relax. And then we'll go all the way up. And behind the head, if it works for you. And come back to center. Just roll it out just a little bit. Then we're just gonna twist behind. The longer you hold it, the more you want to relax again every other muscle and feel those vertebrae just start to twist and open up. Come back to center and then the other side. Remember to relax those knees. And back to center. So now another version of that, actually you can cross over like this, especially again if you can't be in cross-legged, and then do the twist this way. One or the other of these works fine. You don't have to do both. If you've got plenty of time, it's kind of fun to add them both in, but they're both not needed. This one you can add a little bit more leverage to your twist, so it works a little bit better if you are extremely tight. Okay, come back to the center, come around to all fours. We're gonna go to a really wide-legged child's pose. Just push the hips back, push the arms forward. So you wanna get so that the elbows are down and the forearms are facing up. We want to open up that shoulder a little bit, which brings this lat into a little bit more involvement. So hands are close, forearms up. Let the chest sink down. Here, if it's available, you can take the hands together and the thumbs can press up. In this, we get more of the tricep involvement, which brings your posture in better alignment and takes that pressure off of the lower back. From here, walk the hands over to the left. Again, we're pushing down into that right armpit area, dropping the hips back to the left, opening back up to the other side. Come back to the center, come through cat-cow, and I don't love straight line cat-cow, so add whatever movement you want into it. We're pelvic tilting, we're thoracic extending. Walk up to downward dog, pedal out your feet. Come back to standing. And then last one, you're gonna step behind with your left foot. Come down into a stretch. Come on back up, and then the other side. So it's a little bit less like a forward fold here and a little bit more like a deadlift. Push the hips back. Come on up. Okay, and one last one here. We're going to come back to the standing position. We're going to come into a tripod deadlift position. Now, if you have a chair or table out in front of you, it works a little bit easier to envision that hand sliding across the table, pushing the hips back. But if you're used to a deadlift, just do it in a tripod position. Just support it a little bit on that left foot. Press back into your right glute. Feel the hamstring stretch all the way down. And come on back up and switch sides. Tripod, press back. So again, we're really trying to keep those hips neutral with the pelvic tilt. And come back to standing. Okay guys, there you have it. So a little bit extra longer with the explanations. So I'm gonna run through everything without the explanations in between everything. So if you are repeating this video more than once, you can always just skip right to here and just go through the routine. And it shouldn't take more than about 6 to 7 minutes, I'm guessing. All right, guys, let's go. All right, guys, thanks for joining me today. Hopefully your low back and this hip and pelvic region is feeling amazing right now. I know I feel super stretched out. Back pain, stiffness is gone for the day. Don't forget to do these, guys. Make them accessible, make them easy to do. Don't worry about the whole big routine. If you only pick a couple of exercises out of this whole thing, that's wonderful. The tennis ball on the wall thing, I mean, guys, 15 seconds, I can't even tell you enough. 15 seconds a day, what that will do for you, it's glorious. And don't be afraid to pick and choose the things that fit in your schedule, because then you will actually do them. Get some of these habits in your day-to-day routine, and I'll see you next time.